Welcome to this explainer. We're jumping right into some absolutely wild numbers hiding in plain sight inside McDonald's 2024 tax filings. I mean, when you really dig into their balance sheet, it completely shatters the illusion of what you might think this company actually does. Get this. Last year, McDonald's collected a staggering $10 billion just in rent from their locations. Let that sink in for a second. That $10 billion is entirely from collecting rent, which is nearly double what they earned from the royalties on every single Big Mac and Happy Meal sold globally. Most of us just assume they're in the business of selling burgers and fries, but the math tells a vastly different story. Looking at this chart, it brilliantly illustrates what McDonald's actually is: a real estate empire in disguise. They directly own the land under 45% of their restaurants, and they own the actual physical buildings for 75% of them. Literally, if McDonald's were to just spin off their land holdings today, they wouldn't just be a massive fast food corporation. They'd instantly become the largest real estate investment trust on the entire planet. But, the strategy definitely didn't happen by accident. Part 1. Ray Kroc's Early Nightmare. So we start back in the 1950s with Dick and Mac McDonald. These guys were absolute geniuses of efficiency. They literally choreographed their kitchens in chalk on a tennis court, having their employees rehearse movements like a dance. And when Ray Kroc, who was just a struggling milkshake mixer salesman at the time, saw their speedy service system humming along, he was totally stunned. He saw the future. But while Kroc bought the rights to franchise the name and take it nationwide, he quickly realized he was missing the crucial link to true expansion. Basically, he was selling the food, but he didn't own the ground the food was served on. By early 1956, Kroc was virtually broke. Under his original Gale, he was trapped in this low-margin nightmare, earning a tiny 1.4% royalty on sales. I mean, after paying his staff and overhead, he had almost zero capital left to build new stores. He actually went to banks begging for expansion loans, and they literally laughed him out of the room. To a banker back in 1956, a hamburger stand wasn't an investment. It was a super high-risk gamble. Kroc was watching his dream die. Which brings us to part 2, the real estate pivot. Nobody expected what happened next. Former Tasty Freeze executive Harry Sonborn walked into Kroc's office, took one look at his books, and delivered this cold, brilliant piece of logic that completely rewrote the company's foundation. He told him flat out, "You're not in the burger business. You're in the real estate business." He realized the whole enterprise was built on a massive flaw. Sonborn's strategy was incredibly simple. Don't just sell the rights to the name, control the land itself. By forming the Franchise Realty Corporation in late 1956, they put this brilliant 3-step plan into action. First, find a prime corner lot. Second, buy it or sign a long-term lease. And third, this is the real kicker, lease it back to the franchisee with a 20 to 40% markup. Suddenly, the banks said yes. They absolutely hated burger risk, sure, but they were perfectly happy to lend money for land. So Kroc used those loans to buy more land, which he then used as collateral for even more loans, creating this unstoppable virtuous cycle of expansion. Part 3. The ultimate business moat.
So the crucial point here is that this Sonborn model created an absolute powerhouse of a competitive advantage. Think about it. If a franchisee lets their quality slip or breaks the rules, a standard franchisor has to go through the whole lengthy, expensive process of filing lawsuits. But McDonald's? They can simply evict the operator. Why? Because they're the landlord. They literally own the ground the operator walks on. It's a level of control that's almost unheard of in standard franchising.
And just look at the margins this creates on the chart here. It is a profit disparity that would make any Silicon Valley CEO incredibly jealous. McDonald's keeps about 82 to 84 cents of every revenue dollar from its franchised restaurants. Now compare that to a measly 16 cents they keep from the stores they run themselves. It just costs way more overhead to flip a burger yourself than it does to sit back and collect a massive marked-up rent check. Naturally, when you see a massive profit disparity like that, it begs an obvious question. If this is so incredibly profitable, why hasn't everyone else in the fast food industry copied it? Well, the answer really lies in how competitors chose to grow. Major rivals like Yum Brands, the owners of KFC and Taco Bell, they chose an asset-light path. Basically, they let franchisees find and own the real estate while they just collected royalties. And sure, that allowed them to grow super fast with very little capital up front. But it leaves them vulnerable. When a recession hits, a royalty-only company feels the sting immediately as sales drop. But for McDonald's, that rent check is a fixed, predictable cost. Even if burger sales dip, the rent is still due.
By owning the dirt, McDonald's built a structural hedge against inflation and economic downturns that their competitors simply don't possess.
Moving on to part 4, the hidden $95 billion. All right, so to understand the massive, legally required lie sitting right in plain sight on their annual reports, we have to talk about GAAP rules, or generally accepted accounting principles. These rules actually require real estate to be recorded at its historical purchase price, minus decades of depreciation. It completely ignores current market value. So think about a prime corner lot in a major city that McDonald's might have bought back in 1970 for, say, $150,000. On their books today, after 50 years of depreciation, the building itself might be written down to absolutely zero, and the land is still just listed at that original $150,000, even though in the real world, that market value could easily be $5 million or more today. This completely distorts their overall value. On their balance sheet, their property is valued at roughly $25 billion. But because of these strict accounting rules, that number is artificially deflated. Financial analysts diving into the data estimate that the true, actual market value of their real estate is actually closer to $120 billion. That creates a staggering $95 billion gap in value. It is quite literally the greatest hidden asset in corporate history, just sitting right there on the balance sheet, but entirely invisible to most casual investors who are only paying attention to burger sales. And finally, part 5, lessons from the landlord. Let's pull back for a second. McDonald's current CEO, Chris Kempczinski, points out a universal truth in business. Success breeds complacency. Even when things are going incredibly well, he notes that you need a hungry mindset to keep growing. You have to stay green and growing to maintain your edge. McDonald's didn't just invent a great system in the 50s and then call it a day. They continuously leveraged their real estate advantage to dominate globally. And this really brings us to the overarching takeaway from this entire explainer. You have to look beyond the immediate product you sell and find the underlying infrastructure that you can completely control. For McDonald's, the true product wasn't really the food at all. It was the consistency of the location. The Big Mac is simply the bait, but the land? The land is the ultimate prize. By owning the infrastructure, they built an impenetrable moat. Nobody expected a 15-cent hamburger stand to build a global empire, but that was the hidden genius of Harry Sonborn and Ray Kroc. They captured a piece of the world's most valuable land, one corner at a time. So the next time you walk into a McDonald's to grab some fries, look past the counter. Remember that you aren't just looking at a fast food joint, you're looking at the world's most successful landlord. It kind of makes you wonder, right? Next time you see those golden arches, who really owns the ground you're standing on? Thanks for joining me on this explainer. Keep asking questions, and I'll catch you next time.